So someone asks about engaging toys for children. When it comes to getting toys, when it comes to getting useful and engaging toys for children, this is what we basically do in our own home. Many occasions you walk into a store when it comes to children toys, it can be beautiful, it can be so attractive, and sometimes you're even confused on what to get or what to get for your child. So this video is going to be helpful on useful toys or things that will keep your children engaged. And so when it comes to toys, what we do in our home is that first and foremost, as much as possible, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but as much as we can, what we try to do is to put safety first. So no matter how useful the toy is, no matter how engaged, how beautiful or how attractive the toy might be, the toy has to be safe. For example, toys with so many tiny parts. Any little thing you can easily detach it. There are so many tiny parts. Or toys with magnets. Sometimes they'll tell you these children from 3 years, children from 4 years can start using those toys. As much as possible, we don't use them in our home. Another one is toys with batteries. So as much as possible, we avoid toys with batteries, but sometimes you really cannot avoid it because there are some functionalities that will require that the toy is powered. So before you get that kind of toy with battery, ensure that that battery section has a screw, something that can tighten it. There are some toys you will pick, you just open it freely. But when it comes to toys with batteries, that section for the battery must have a screw. It must be something you can screw and tighten. When it comes to safety, read your labels. It's important you read your label on that particular toy you're getting. There are choking hazards that will be identified in that label. There are age range that you'll be told to use that particular toy for. So if your child is less than that age, you'll be discouraged to use it. There are places the toy may not be advised to be used. Sometimes they'll tell you this toy is appropriate indoor. Sometimes they'll tell you this toy is more appropriate when you use it outdoor. Those are things you're likely going to see in the label of any toy you're getting. When it comes to choosing toys for our kids, as much as possible, the first thing that goes into play is safety first. The next thing, how useful is a toy? Don't enough to just fill the entire house with so many toys. How useful is that toy? How old is your baby? How old is your child? What are they interested in? And you as a parent, what do you intend to achieve with that particular toy you want to get? For instance, sometimes you want to build focus in your child, you want to build their attention span, you want to make them concentrate more on a task. Sometimes you want to reduce screen time with a particular toy. Sometimes you want them to expend energy. Sometimes you want to build their listening skills, you want to build their speech, you want to build their language. Sometimes you want to build how they interact with people, with their age mates, with how they interact with adults. So there are so many toys out there, and there are different toys for different purposes. For each of these things I mentioned, I'm going to show you one or two examples of the particular toy we use to try and achieve that particular goal. When it comes to reasoning, when it comes to logic, when it comes to concentration, when it comes to attention, when it comes to a child just focused on a particular task, building blocks will always come handy. And sometimes some companies will tell you do not introduce their building blocks until the child is 2 or until the child is 3. But in our home, what we're trying to do is to introduce it as early as possible. As soon as you're 1, you can start playing with it. Of course, building blocks can be frustrating for children, especially for very little children, for toddlers. But as they get used to it, and the earlier they get used to it, their creative ability, their imagination, it builds their imagination, it builds their attention, it builds their ability to actually concentrate on a particular task. So as much as possible, we try to introduce building blocks early. Another thing we try to do when it comes to attention, when it comes to problem solving, when it comes to concentration on a particular task, is puzzles. It helps them a lot. It's super helpful. You can actually get that for your kids as well. And if you have the time, if you have so much time at hand, you can do lots of DIYs with your kids. This is so helpful. They see it as fun, mommy, daddy, all hands on deck. They are happy when you come down to their level. You're painting, you're pasting, you're doing things together. So it mustn't be something that you must go to the market or you go to the supermarket to buy. And do something creative with your kids. You're cutting, you're painting something, you're telling them to paint, you're drawing, you're making some sketches. Those things are very fun for children. So when it comes to toys that build language, that build interaction, that makes them confident, when it comes to speaking, talking, creativity, you can invest in toys for pretend play. You can create these things at home. Sometimes you can use boxes, you can use cartons, you can use papers to create this. You can still buy them. If you have a toy kitchen, they can do pretend play in their toy kitchen. They can pretend to be firefighters. They can pretend to be engineers. They can pretend to be anything you can really think of. Sometimes maybe that they're in front of a screen for too long. They've been on the iPad or on the TV for too long. I want to reduce screen time. You can invest in a game like this. So you have the ones that come as a car race. There are the times that come as astronauts. This is another toy you can actually invest in. It comes in different sizes, in different shapes. shapes, in different activities a child can do. Another thing is to pay attention to what your child is interested in. There are some children that are interested in building things. They want to build a house. They want to, when you take them to the beach, before you know, they are building a castle. Some children love to draw. They love to be on a canvas drawing. Some children, even when you give them an iPad, they're looking for how to sketch something. So pay attention to your kids. Pay attention to what they are interested in. So whatever they're interested in can give you a guide of the kind of things you should be buying for them as toys. So it's not enough to say, oh, I saw this toy somewhere, I want to get it for my kids. If it's something your child is not interested in, they may not enjoy that particular toy. So if you can go with the flow of what your child is interested in, it makes it a lot easier. That way they are happier. That way they are enjoying what you're offering them. That way they are enjoying the activity, and it builds a particular skill in them. For example, I'm someone who hates so much noise. It stresses me out. So toys like microphones, we have them at home, but they rarely use such things. Drum sets. If you're interested in such toys, you can actually get them. So it actually helps them with musical skills. It helps them with dancing. It helps them with having fun playing. Children want to just scream and all of that. So those things can actually be helpful. It's something you can actually invest in if you know you can cope with the noise, or if you know that you can keep them in their own room and they're doing their thing out there. Really, it depends on how it works for you, your family, and your kids. And of course, books. Never get tired of books. Be small books, medium-sized books, picture books. These things are very helpful for children. Even when you don't have the time, as little as 10 minutes, as little as 15 minutes, you can either take turns with hubby, or you and hubby can do it together. Sometimes it could just be that they're looking at the pictures. These things help with their concentration, it helps with their attention, it helps with their focus, it helps with language. And one thing about reading, in fact, that was how I actually learned how to read. I learned how to read by just looking at a particular book. I was told in Sunday school by my Sunday school teacher, and I really wanted to learn how to read as a little girl. She just told me to go and get any book of my choice, and then the only thing I could get them was my Bible. He said that you should just be looking at the Bible, that the more I look at it, I'll be seeing familiar words. By the time I'm combining 1-2 words, and before you know it, I will know how to read. And that was really helpful. As I'm looking at it, as they are pointing, as you're showing them a particular word, those things are sticking. When I go the extra mile to read to them, there's something very useful for children. It is something you should invest in when it comes to books. It could be just simple books, bedtime story books. It could be just be picture books. It can even come as flashcards. Those things are very, very helpful. In fact, even if you're pregnant, if you're having just a baby, start reading to that child. Start reading to your babies right from the womb. You can start reading to your child. You can start talking to them. These things are super, super helpful. So when it comes to toys, these are things we try to focus on. Things that can build their motor skill, things that can build their imagination, their language, things that can make them expend energy, because children are active. So I hope this video is helpful, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, bye.